I guess my little just bit of parting advice is you've made it through this video. You kind of know where to begin. I think the proof is in the pudding. That would be my answer. I've been through a lot of courses, not my first crypto, but for real estate, for investing, for options. And I can tell you what's a good course and what's a bad course.
All right. Well, I'm super excited to have this conversation with you today, Rouven. It's been a long time in the making. We've had you in our program now in our community for a little 2 years, I think we said.
Right.
So before this, when we were talking.
Yeah, it's
It's
only a
just
year and a half or 2 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
And honestly, you've just proven to give so much expertise into our community as well. And so this conversation today, I'm just excited. I think it will be fruitful for people to get to know you and what you've gained through being a part of our community, but also what you've been able to give other people. And so if you could just share with us a little of your background, a little bit about you and your expertise in the areas and industry that you were focusing on prior to crypto.
Yeah, I got you. So we are, sometimes like I said, we're moving between South Dakota and Colorado. Sometimes, like I said, I believe I'm living between the two states on the road. What we do as far as up here, I've took the chance now that I'm retired to just pursue some entrepreneurial ventures. So academic side apart, I still give some lectures and talks on that front, but I really wanted to kind of pursue some things that I've always toyed with and played with and worked on, investing specifically, stocks, options, and real estate in that order. One of the opportunities that presented itself right at the time we met, as a matter of fact, through a mutual contact, was this company that I'm still as the director of operations working on hiring is Osvia Commercial Real Estate, or now Commercial Financing is what we're calling it, because we do kind of a little bit of everything, not just real estate, but any type of business ventures. So that's been fun. That's given me a different aspect on real estate as a loan seeker versus a loan giver. I know the dynamics, I know the question set, but it's kind of interesting to see the mechanics from the inside. Still doing a lot of options and stocks. In matter of fact, when we met, so retirement, move, all kinds of dynamics. But the other thing that was really intriguing me, and I guess COVID started this, was looking at the horizons of where we're moving next. So the dot-com revolution was one when I just never had the chance to really do as much because I was deployed a lot and doing all those things. So as I was looking ahead and looking at the AI quantum revolution, I said, okay, I want to get in on this, right? I want to figure out, we joke about this, the next Amazon. I want to see the lay of the land. And I got involved with that. And one of the things that came exposed at the time was crypto. Know nothing about it. Matter of fact, if anything, warned off of it, right? This is weird stuff. You're not buying anything, Rouven. There's no asset allocation to it. I looked at Bitcoin, however, from friends who had bought Bitcoin at I think about 5,000 and sold it at 20,000. That's a pretty good rate of return. Of course, I'm sure they're beating themselves over the head now that they didn't hold it until it was 70 or 120 as it has been. I think we're dancing around 70 today. But one of those things I wanted to learn more about, just did not know where to begin. So my usual sources, whether I think, as we've talked about, whether it's Schwab or Fidelity, Seeking Alpha, MarketWatch, Barron's, none of them were really covering crypto in any serious way. Maybe a small little note. And when I went online, I just had no idea where to go. And I figured, okay, this is going to be some real having to dig, in large part because there's a lot of craziness out there. And which is why it was really serendipitous that when we met, again, not even directly involved. It's just like we met and then, oh, you guys do crypto. Well, this is opportune. Let's talk about this. And that's how this adventure began.
Yes, and I love it too because you do have quite a bit of background in the investing space, but also the education space and a few other areas. But it's like for you to be inside our program, understanding certain things, and also now I see you as somebody that's giving back to those entry level people coming in.
Yeah.
It is the sweetest thing, honestly. I'm like, it's great to have people that it's like you've built up to a certain level and then you continue to do your own research, you continue to add value into our community and start seeing where things are going. And I think that's kind of a default, you going back to your default. You're an educator, you're a teacher yourself. Is it in psychology or philosophy?
Political science and philosophy.
Okay, yep. And you bring that side also to the table. And so for us at Digital Asset Sisters, we just love having you in that aspect because we really do value, as you know, mindset
Right.
and education. it's all about mindset and education. So for you, what do you think was one of the things that changed most? Was it before coming into Digital Asset Sisters and after? Was it first like a mindset shift that had to happen, or what was it? Just, I guess you can kind of share. It doesn't have to be a mindset shift.
No, it's a great question, an important one. So the interest was there, but I had no idea what separated a stable coin from a Bitcoin from a, it all sounded the same, or meme coins, right? Which, you started reading more about it. From 2022 on, you'd get little news headlines, X meme goes through the roof, and you're like, what is going on? What does a meme coin actually do? They sounded so goofy, right? All the names, I can't even remember any of them in special that came up. And so for me, the ability, when we actually got a chance to talk, I was intrigued by the fact of what this space actually involved. And when we talked, and just about other matters, I recognized, okay, here's two individuals who are engaged in educating about something and are deeply concerned that the folks that are involved with them understand what they're getting involved with. So when we did that Crypto Start, I think it was called Crypto Start at the time, I think it still is, that program you had, and I know it's gone through multiple iterations. Every time I go back to it now, it looks better and better and better, but I remember it was such a blessing because I had no idea how, in other words, cold wallets, heard about cold wallets, heard about hot wallets, but I could never find kind of an intelligent analysis of it, or even a guideline of how to step through it, approached it. Now, I remember your sister told me, she goes, when are you actually going to start investing? I said, well, I'm a researcher first. I got to know what I'm doing before I invest, right? So, I'd gone through this, but I've had still so many questions. It took a long time to get my head around blockchain technology. And then, of course, I think the real in for me was the dovetailing, as we've talked about, how that relates to quantum and AI. And I could see those connections starting to appear. And all of a sudden it started clicking, right? So to be quite frank, I went through your program maybe twice, right? It would just be like something wasn't resonating. It wasn't lack of clarity on your part. It just wasn't making sense to me. And I know that sometimes you kind of have to go over the same ground. Partly just the exposure.
Yes.
I got onto Coinbase right away. No assets yet. Just wanted to get onto Coinbase and start tracking and monitoring and seeing what was going on. And that was a real learning curve as well. So over about 6 months, I would say, I know that the program doesn't take that long. I took glacially long, but I was also transitioning in life. Really got my head around the space. And I will have to say that kind of began that transformation process where now I feel very comfortable about crypto. I understand its connectivity. I understand where the hype is. I understand where there's some substance, and the educational part for me was I can only help others if I know something about what's going on. And to me, part of any community is not just the take but the give. It's that dynamic interaction, which I love about what we do.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's so great, and just to see you kind of work your way through that and the process. Everybody's process is different, and one thing that we do say, it's like, you have to be patient with yourself as you go through this. It is an entirely new language. And so I think that's exactly what you were going through, is this transition of, okay, now I'm learning a whole entirely new language, wanting to be confident and know what you're investing in before you actually step foot in the door and invest. So yeah, that's good.
If I can jump in on that.
Do you have something?
Yeah, I do. Because
Yeah.
I think this is such a critical point, and we've talked about this many times. One of the things I always think, this goes back to The Intelligent Investor, right, by Benjamin Graham, this idea that, or Warren Buffett said it many times, invest in what you know, right? So there are moments when, if you came to me and said, Rouven, give me, here's what I do, here's my track record, I'm like, I will, invest into you. In other words, that you know what you're doing and whatever rate of return. I don't have to understand what you're doing, right? You're the black box, you're the gatekeeper, I trust you. But if I'm doing it myself, if I'm investing, and that's one of the things I really admire about the Digital Asset Sisters, is you guys offer both the services these days, but you're so adamant that you're the custodian of your own fate, right? This is your responsibility. You need to know what's going on. And that's why I love this idea. So when you actually offered those modules, they were actually the learning curve. There's so many YouTube videos out there that kind of mimic, they're not modeling you, but they do something similar, but they're not nearly as good because they're not nearly as organized. And I always feel at the end, there's some game that they're trying to sell me. Hey, invest in my fund or whatever the case might be, rather than just saying, here's the information. Now, once you've done that, you can do your own research and figure out if you want to invest in this company or in that company that does it, or if you want to do it yourself. I have to say that idea of education is so important, and I love that's what you guys do.
Yes. Well, thank you. It's good to hear your experience as you went through it too, because like I said, everybody has their own experience, but from what we've done is really just consolidate the information, because anybody can go and do it on their own, but how long do you want to spend figuring it out? And on top,
sorry, I was going to just say,
yeah.
one of the things, it's not just figuring it out. There's so many dead ends, so many dangers, right? I hear this sometimes folks in our community even, like, hey, or you tell a story, somebody put money somewhere and they lost it all because, they either trusted the wrong person, they didn't know what they were doing. And my thinking is, you need to understand the space you're investing in. And I think it's incredibly dynamic. It's not actually that complicated. Once you rightly said it, once you get the language down, right, all of a sudden, okay, now it's starting to make more and more sense. So.
Exactly. That's really good. So, okay, I'm going to change directions just a little bit, but going to the side of, because I know we talk a lot about innovative investments, and you've been in investments for a long time, been in the stock market, and we mentioned Amazon as well. What do you think it takes? Kaylin and I were talking about this actually this morning, but what do you think from your perspective does it take to be an innovative investor, somebody that's going to choose to invest early, be an early strategic investor?
That's a great question. I guess my first answer is, I'm not sure. I always tell people, whether or not you're early or late, whatever the heck that means, right? Is it too late to invest in Amazon? The answer is no. Right now, Amazon has all kinds of potential still ahead of itself, right? Especially with the AI revolution. What I always tell people is if you're, an early progenitor, you're somebody that is gets to get in on the start. You and then do the learning curve. It's a mental set. It's not something I'm thinking can be taught. I don't think I would want to teach it. It's like I don't know. It's like teaching. You might remember your college days, right? I tell professors all the time: if you're funny, be funny. If you're serious, be serious. Okay, same thing here. If you're the type of person that loves innovation, you're at the cutting edge. You're the first to be at Best Buy when the new gadget breaks, right? You were a Sharper Image follower in its day. Well, then get in, learn about it. Your mindset's already there. Now the only thing you mentioned patience earlier, but you have to be patient. I always think people rush in sometimes. I'm like, just think about it, just research a little bit. You can still be an early innovator, just do a little bit of research to figure out what your early innovation is going with. However, that being said, rather than trying to take somebody who is maybe skeptical, right? Maybe who wants to do a little bit more. He's not an early innovator. He's like a mid innovator, right? He's the person that wants to see this stabilize a little bit, see where it's going, and then fine. That's the person I want to make sure that they have the skill set. Whatever it is, though, is that the earlier, when it comes to something like crypto, especially, this is kind of self-selecting. I don't think anybody's going to, I don't know. We've had some folks talk about their parents who are like, oh, this crypto stuff I don't want to get involved with, right? And my answer is, okay, I get that. Yeah. But the person who's already looking at the community, who's already thinking about this, those are they're early innovators, because we are at the very early stages of this. Yeah, it's been around now for a decade plus, right, over that. But as far as actually producing and getting to a point now, we talk about the Clarity Act. We talk about the idea of a Bitcoin reserve as just by one example. Not to mention the idea of actually blockchain trading coming online in a way that it has not, to expedite and get rid of the old SWIFT system. All these things are there, and if you're ready to go, my encouragement is, if you're innovation, we could enter. But if not, nothing hurts by just observing for a while. Because to be quite frank, let's say XRP. I have no idea. But let's say XRP goes to $10 in a year or two, for whatever reason, right? Well, the good news is, now XRP is established. You're at the you're still at the early stages of a technological revolution. This isn't going to happen overnight. It's like people said, oh, I missed out on the .com revolution. Well, no, technically it's still going on. So you can jump in at any time.
Yes. No, and that's true. That is true. I think the gap would be a little bit smaller, obviously, but there's still opportunity in that space. Right. But really, it's the gap of opportunity that is there. But then we're going even farther with AI, as you mentioned. Right.
I think, by the way, to touch upon that, I think the early innovators, it's like the guy, I remember this, the gentleman, I forget his name, the founder of PayPal. When it first started off, he took I don't know how many thousands of his dollars and put it in a Roth IRA and bought his own company stock, which was, I think, at something 0.0001 cent, right? And he's made billions off of that, obviously, right? Despite PayPal's present troubles, he's been great, had a great run. Well, my answer is, look, if you're involved, here's the thing. Whoever's listening to this is already involved in some form. They're interested, right? So, like, if you think about it, our discussions, we're early innovators. We're ready to go, and we're going to benefit the most from that. And so my encouragement is, if anybody's watching this video or any engagement, that's what every time we have our meetings, I'm like, if you're here now, now's the time to put some money behind it, right? Because we're arguing between 50 cents and $1.50, right? Well, that's going to look like nobody's going to care about that small delta, relatively speaking, when we get to the higher echelons of investment return. So from my standpoint, if you project that this is going to continue, and the real thing is, can we pick the winners? Can we pick those systems that at least for a season are going to be the dominant mechanism, right? That are going to be utilized on one form or another, right? So I think that really is where the work is.
Yeah. Okay. That's good. I love it. And then for you, I know everybody has their own level of confidence, and we need to get that confidence through our own understanding. Well, you can't borrow somebody else's conviction. But for you, how confident are you in this space, being with inside Digital Asset Sisters community? How confident are you in the future outlook of where things are going?
That's a great question. So if you had asked me 2 years ago, how confident am I in anything crypto, I wasn't. I'm always moderate, so it wasn't like I've written off crypto. I just didn't know, and I was not going to put money into something I didn't know, right? I mean, to be quite frank, I don't know what Bitcoin was at, but it was in much higher than it was when I said, Bitcoin at 2,000, or Ethereum. Well, then maybe I'll invest in Ethereum at 800. What does it hurt to put a little bit of money and see what happens, right? Well, of course, beat myself over the head when I saw it go to 3,000, Ethereum, that is, let alone Bitcoin. So the idea that comes across, but I'm also not one that regrets. I recognize it would have been foolish for to do because I would have just been gambling. So the idea came across once I started with the course, once we started with the discussion, once we started with the community. I love the community because the community has a plethora of people at different levels of experiences, all kind of coming together with, as we sometimes refer to the kingdom-minded philosophy, longevity, generational wealth, but also this idea that we want to be innovative, we want to get this, we want to help and support each other. So to me, I have to say, my confidence, and that was the question you're asking, the confidence level went from 0 in crypto to, I don't know, put a percentage on, but I feel like at this stage, I'm 100% confident in the knowledge of the field, right? That does not mean I feel 100% confident in any particular investment, because those things can fluctuate, but I feel quite confident from the standpoint of saying, okay, I know when you get on, when I hear somebody talk about it, I now know if they're talking intelligently or not so intelligent. And by the way, to me, that is a critical move of learning. If you can make a difference, say this guy or this gal is, so to speak, blowing smoke, they're not really attuned to the reality of what's going on, they're not tuned to the wisdom of this, I can dismiss them. Oh, this person's actually intelligent, I want to listen to them, right? So I think that is what it is. I will say the biggest regret I have so far, but I'm going to rectify that, is not coming to any of the events here. Not that you are hosting events, but these kind of gatherings, whether it's XRP. I know you were in one just this last week again, I believe, right? To me, I want to be involved with that. I want to see the inside. So right now I've been an outside observer, but it's like going to a meeting of stock you own. It's a completely different dynamic. So that's my next goal. And I love, by the way, I think it was Beth. It put me onto this. Okay, if Beth can do it, why am I not doing it?
Yes. No, it's so true. And I think that's where you get so inspired in a community setting, whether it's one community or the other, you're getting inspired and encouraged by people. If they can do it, I think I can do this. And honestly, it's all these little communities around that then when you go to those bigger events, you get a much broader perspective as well with where other people are sitting. So, I mean, that's something that we love and encourage everybody to do is go and be a part of some of those other events and listen to other YouTube. Listen to people that are maybe not the perspective you want to hear on some of your investments. It gives you a wider range of a broader perspective, honestly. But for people interested in getting invested, kind of waiting on the sidelines, wanting to get in, what would you say to them or have an encouragement to them in this direction?
So, great question again. I think a couple encouragements. One, do your homework, do some research. But two, it's like going to the gym. Like, okay, I want to get fit. Fine, go to the gym. But most of us fail when we go by ourselves. Get involved in a community. Oh, wait, we have a community. So my answer is be involved in the community. If I could encourage anyone, it'd be like, stay on the calls, get involved, right? You've done a phenomenal job with working on little chat systems on that with the postings. Get engaged with that. That's the real learning curve. The more we do of that, the more you become empowered. I have to say, my natural proclivity is to want to, I'm pretty autodidactic and I will do the research myself. Although again, had not come across you, I don't think I would be in crypto yet, to be quite frank, because it's just still would have been something. Where do I even begin? There's so many different programs out there. I don't know who to trust. So the learning curve that I've had as a result of this, and then now the engagement in the community, if somebody's saying, how do I do this? What do I do? I said, well, okay, first things first, get involved somewhere. Okay, well, Digital Asset Sisters, I know it's not like a marketing tool, but it really made the difference for me. Had you guys not provided that introduction course, I would never have joined the community. Because I don't know the community. I don't know what you're offering. But by the systematic treatment, it made me knowledgeable. It also, by the way, made me knowledgeable enough where now I can interject when somebody says something. Hey, I'm not quite sure that's going to be really particularly helpful, right? Have you thought about this? Because I've done the homework that you guys gave me to do, by the way, and that everybody. And the other part about this community, what I really love, any community you join. And so if it's not digital asset, join a community you trust, but make sure you're dealing. I call it dealing with the same text. If you guys have the same background. To put it quite simply, if we all have different backgrounds and there's no common nexus, there's really no conversation. Imagine if you brought, and we've talked about this, you bring into the community people who are not kingdom-minded, people who are not thinking about generational wealth, people whose ethical standards are entirely different. It begins to erode the community. So my thought is, who are you? What do you want? If this is kind of what you are thinking about, you're thinking in terms of generational wealth, you're thinking in terms of learning about the space, not just putting your money. So the person who says, hey, I have $10,000, I don't want to learn about this. I just want to put money in somebody, like my an ETF or mutual fund. Somebody else does the work for. Okay, that's fine. But even there, I would encourage you, go through this, be involved in the community, because even there you get that kind of encouragement, because there's nothing worse when you put money with somebody and it goes from 10,000 to 8,000. You're like, what just happened to my money, right? Even if it goes to 12,000 later, people panic. So my answer is, get involved. And the way to get involved is through a sane kind of conversation with individuals who are like-minded. And if this is something that this community appeals, then this is the right community. If it's not, there are other communities out there. I particularly like this one because of the nature, and I mentioned a couple times, there's broader vision than merely making the bottom line buck. There's the idea of community encouragement, which matters.
Yeah, and that's so true. It really is the heart of the community that matters, and it's not for us. We always say this, and this, but we're not about getting rich quick. That's not the name of the game. We're here to become an educational, be educated. We can point you in the right directions. Like you said, you're a avid learner, so you're gonna run after things and learn about it. It's interesting because I was gonna ask you actually, where do you think you would be if we didn't meet, you didn't join our community? Would you be invested?
No.
And you
I would be invested, but not in crypto. And to me, at this stage, I have my, I had my Kraken open before we started, right? I monitor it just like I do my stocks these days. I take a look, I have stop loss, I have, alerts set, I'm ready to buy back in if it dips at a certain point. I'm ready to, kind of just monitor it. So to be quite frank, had we not met, it would still probably be on my radar screen, but given everything else I've been doing in life, I don't think it would have been actualized, in any serious way. So I think that, plays a huge role. It's also opportunities in life. I tell people everything has a cost, right? So spending time learning crypto prevents you from learning something else. But if you're interested in it, well, then make it happen. And whatever it is, and I guess this is my advice to anyone, whatever you want to learn, whether it's a craft, like I want to build furniture, or I want to invest in crypto, well, take the time to learn a little about it. Do not just jump in both feet with money flying everywhere, right? As a matter of fact, there's a lot of great programs out there, including Kraken. I know that it happens with Thinkorswim from Schwab, where you can do what's called paper trading for a while. So, just kind of see how it works. To get a sense if I bought, because buying crypto is slightly different than buying stocks, also as far as the asset. But you get some feeling of that. I'm saying just jump in somewhere and do something. And do it small. And you have always said, and I think this is really important for the average person, yes, you would love to do the research requisite, but if you are putting $50 in every month, the law of averages are in your favor. Because let's just say XRP is doing this, which it has been kind of doing, right? But it's going to do this. So let's say you've been down here and you bought here, here, here. Well, you're averaging it out, and it's going to be a great rate of return in the long run.
Exactly. That is great advice, Rouven. Honestly, you're just a wealth of knowledge, and we appreciate you being in our community. Seriously, we appreciate you being in our community. Glad to be connected with you and these other individuals that we have. And just creating a safe space for people to be able to grow and not feel like they have to know everything all at once. It really is a safe spot. And so thanks for joining me today and just having a conversation of your experience and your journey within this space.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I don't know, again, it's like always so funny when you do a recording, you always wonder who listens to it at the end of the day, right? But if anybody actually makes it this far into this, I guess my little just bit of parting advice is you've made it through this video. You kind of know where to begin. I think the proof is in the pudding. That would be my answer. And I tell people sometimes it's like, if I can use a religious metaphor, just joining a church. Let's say you're new to the faith. Well, maybe visit a church or two. And I hate using the word visit, but check it out, right? Don't just go there the first day and sign the confession of faith that you don't understand and link your tithing to the bank account or whatever. I mean, you can. I'm just saying maybe do a little bit, and then. But once you feel comfortable, once you've gone through, and I think the proof in the pudding for me is anybody that questions, like when people come to me and said, somebody asked me a while back, why Digital Asset Sisters versus any number? I said, well, of course, first of all, just a little bit of happenstance or fate, fortune, providence that we met. But the second thing, proof's in the pudding. I've been through a lot of courses, not my first crypto, but for real estate, for investing, for options. And I can tell you what's a good course and what's a bad course. And this course is very orderly laid out. I enjoyed it for that reason. And then the part of that, of being part of that community that also is having that same conversation and sees that, wonderful. So thanks for having me on. Wish you a great day.
Thank you, Rouven. You're amazing. You too.
Yeah, take care. Bye.